success story. But also, we've had a success in terms of the tax cut. And I know we have educators here, we've got people that want to make sure that state government is adequately funded. And you say, well, why do we need a $100 million tax cut? Well, first of all, we want to have a competitive income tax rate, and we lowered the income tax rate starting with the middle class from 7% to 6%. If you were at 6%, it goes to 5%. For the average family, that means that you have $500 more in your pocket every year because of that tax cut. You combine that $500 with lower gas prices, better wages in the stores today, and all of a sudden you've got more spending income, and that makes a difference on the downtown businesses of Arkadelphia because people have money to spend. They support your downtown merchants. You grow your economy that way. And so a fundamental principle is that we need to grow the private sector of our economy more than the government sector. And we're doing that. So even though we had a $100 million income tax cut for our state, guess what? State revenues grew 2.7%. And so we just submitted a state budget with a 2.7% growth rate. And so we grow the economy, and that's the key to improving education. It's the key to having more funds for the state services that we are interested in. We're improving workforce education, job skill training, trying to break down the silos so we're more effective in the delivery of those job skill training that's essential for the recruitment of industry. And then finally, you cannot talk about the progress of the state without our great responsibility when it comes to our children. And one of my initiatives is to make sure that we are addressing the challenge of foster care in this state, where we do not have enough foster homes for the children that we're taking into custody. And so I partnered with the private sector, our faith-based community. I called the Hope Summit together. And I said, the state cannot meet this challenge alone. We need your help. And so we increased the number of foster care homes that are available because of the faith-based community. We also challenged them in our prison reentry programs to partner with us to provide those that are coming out of prison, wanting a second chance in life, to help provide that second chance with job training and driver's license, the skills that they need to have a better chance of re-entering our society. Those are things we need to do as a state, but we need to do it with our faith-based community, and we have that challenge, and they responded very favorably to that challenge. So those are some of the things that we've accomplished in the last year. I saw your statistics about job creation. If you look at it statewide, since I've been governor, 38,000 new jobs have been created in the state of Arkansas. I'm reminded of a job announcement. Danny Gaines is here with AEDC, Economic Development, and we went up to a little town called Magnus, Arkansas, population 200 in northern Arkansas. And we were having a jobs announcement because this town of 200 had attracted a feed mill. And so as we were there, I looked around and we had the United States Senator there, we had the Congressman, we've got Congressman Western here tonight, we had the Congressman there, we had the Governor there, we had all of the local and state officials, and the mayor gets up of that town of 200 and said, ladies and gentlemen, I've only been mayor 2 months and look at all these people I brought to town. And so he learned the first rule of politics: if it happens on your watch, take credit for it. And while those 38,000 jobs have been created in Arkansas to a certain extent, it's because we have a growing economy nationally, but at the same time, we're doing some good things in the state of Arkansas and marketing this state and having a competitive tax system, a partnership with our local industrial leaders and economic growth leaders. These are things that we're doing right. And so I talk about marketing Arkansas, and that's what a governor has to do. If your governor is not out there competing, then we're missing the boat. I went to Cuba. In Cuba, I challenged the government officials and I said, we have poultry and we have rice in Arkansas that we need to export to you. And they had a little ban on avian flu from Arkansas that everybody else had lifted. Within a week coming back, they lifted the ban. And then another 2 weeks later, they had purchased 4,500 tons of Arkansas poultry from Arkansas companies. The governor can make a difference in making those calls. And so we have an opportunity, whether it's timber, other items to market there. We want to change the policy. But that's what a governor does, is to compete there. And I was the first governor after we restored diplomatic relations to go to Cuba. And so I engaged in diplomatic relations, but I also had some fun. And my staff knew that I liked to play a little pickup basketball every once in a while. And so they set up a game for me in Cuba. And at the designated time, I went to play basketball. I had my raggedy shorts and t-shirt, just like I always go in there. And I realized quickly something's not right here, because we went into the Cuban National Sports Arena. And as I went in there, I saw the Cuban national sports team, basketball team, warming up on both ends of the court in uniform. And they had referees there, they had the press that was there, and I looked at Mike Preston, who was going to play with me. He's my director of economic development, and I said, it's too late to back out. It's two gringos, you have these Cuban players there, 6'5" to 6'8", and I said, we got to play. So we go in there, and it's Mike Preston and I with 3 Cubans against 5 Cubans. We bring the ball down. They throw the ball to me. I turn toward the basket, and all of a sudden, all 5 Cuban defenders backed up. And I said, isn't it great to be governor of Arkansas? And so we had some fun there, called timeouts, and us play ball. But what a way to teach them about the commonality we have in sports, about the freedoms that we enjoy, about our private enterprise system that flourishes in the United States without centralized government control that they still need to learn. I went to Germany and I talked about our steel business here in Arkansas. I went to the Paris Air Show and said that we have $1.6 billion in aero defense exports from Arkansas, leading industry for us. And that if every Falcon jet that's purchased anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, they have to pick up that Falcon jet in Little Rock, Arkansas, at Dassault Falcon jet. And so we are leading. And I also learned something while I was there, and I want to encourage you with this point. First of all, we want to have supply chain drivers right here in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And when I say supply chain drivers, I talked to one business that was there that's located in Arkansas, and I said, what's it going to take for you to expand? And they said, we have no capacity to expand our jobs organically within our company. We are totally dependent upon who our supply chain driver is. It's Dassault Falcon Jet. We supply for them. If they sell more jets, they grow their business, we'll grow our business. And it taught me a fundamental principle, that if we can recruit those supply chain drivers, whether it is a Big River Steel, whether it's a Georgia Pacific, or whether it's a Dassault Falcon Jet, or whether it's a new automobile manufacturer, if we recruit those anywhere in Arkansas, that supply chain will benefit communities all across this state. And so you have to have a strategy. I learned that while I was there. And yes, I did go to China, and guess what? Arkadelphia was a topic of conversation in China. And I was able to brag about the incredible community here and the resources that you have devoted to bring in a large investment here into Arkadelphia. Now, you know this because it's public information. We signed a letter of intent while I was in China with Sun Paper Company. Now, I signed that letter of intent because they wanted to sign that letter of intent. And they wanted to have a news conference in signing that letter of intent. Now, I know that a letter of intent is something that could not be the intent 3 months from now. But I also knew that they wanted to do this. It was important to them. We made the right contacts. We built the right relationships. And in that letter of intent with Sun Paper, it says that they will make a site selection by May 1 of this year. Since we came back from China, I've had a number of calls with the CEO of Sun Paper. We've continued to push the project, but it's also about meeting those deadlines, which they're doing. They're going to make a site selection by May 1. But we've also continued to cultivate that relationship. And so I invited the Consul General of China from the Houston Consul General Office to join me at the Governor's Mansion to celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year. Now, is that not going the furthest distance to make sure we market Arkansas to China? And he came, and we had an incredible celebration, but it's building that relationship. And I think that's one of the interesting tests that is before us this year, is that China is ready and needs to invest in the United States of America. We've built those relationships. Will that come through this year? And so it's a test, it's an opportunity. We're working very hard with your leaders to accomplish that, and we will hope for the best. And so we're marketing the state of Arkansas. We're marketing the opportunities in local communities like Arkadelphia. But we've done a lot, but there are some future challenges ahead. And let me just take a second to talk about what's going to happen this April. And that's in terms of the Arkansas General Assembly is going to have 3 sessions this year. I'm going to call a special session, April 6th, I think it is, for Medicaid reform. And then we're going to have the budget session, and then afterwards we're going to have the highway session. I need you, ladies and gentlemen, here in Arkadelphia and Clark County to be engaged on these issues, to understand the issues, and to support the governor, because I think we're going the right direction. Now, the first one is on the Medicaid reform. Let me give you just a little bit of background. As you know, in Washington, they adopted a new health care policy called the Affordable Care Act. 4 parts to it. Individual mandate, the employer mandate, the Medicaid expansion part, and then the exchange where you go get your insurance. It goes to the Supreme Court. We challenged it all. We didn't like it. We wanted them to knock it down. And guess what the Supreme Court did? They upheld 3 parts of that and gave the state the option on the 4th part. And so they affirmed what to me was the most difficult parts, the employer mandate, the individual mandate, and the exchange. But they gave the states the choice on the Medicaid expansion. And many states took different choices. Today, 30 states have accepted the Medicaid expansion dollars in order to provide better health care for their citizens that are below 138% of the poverty level. Arkansas took a version of that and said, we're not going to do a straight Medicaid expansion, we're going to do a private option where you take those dollars and buy the insurance off the marketplace for those under 138% of the poverty level. How does it work, ladies and gentlemen? We're still studying that. But the legislature said the private option ends December 31st of this year. And so that is over with, that ends, it is fait accompli. I looked at where we need to go in the future. And I said that our state cannot afford to disrupt the health care of 250,000 Arkansans that are struggling to move up the economic ladder, that we need to continue this, but we need to reform it. And the reform is that we need to encourage and provide more work opportunities for those that are taking their insurance that's paid for by the government. And so I put a work referral requirement so that if you're under 138% of the poverty and you're taking that insurance, then you need to be referred for worker training to have the opportunity to get a job and move up the economic ladder. We've also want to make sure that we encourage employer-based insurance rather than government insurance. Right now, you could be an employer and you have a worker that rejects the employer insurance and takes the government insurance because you don't have to pay the deductible. We want to mandate that they take the employer insurance, wrap around the coverage so it's equal but it'll save us like $29 million in doing that. And so we're encouraging employer insurance. Thirdly, we want to incentivize personal responsibility. So if you're making above 100% of the federal poverty level, and you're taking your insurance that's paid for by the government, then you need to be responsible for 2% of your income toward the premium cost. It's ownership, it's investing in your own health care, and that's what you do in the private sector. Increase the program integrity. These are reforms that I've advocated, and because it's encouraging more work opportunities, we call it Arkansas Works. It is reform, it is the right thing to do for Arkansas, and that will be the first thing that will be debated whenever we go into the session on April 6th. I need your support for that initiative. It makes no sense for us to change what we're doing now when federal policy could very well change next year after the election. Let's make the right decision for Arkansas now. And then we're going to have a highway plan. And actually they're linked together, because if we do not take the Arkansas Works with the expansion dollars, then we're not going to have $40 million of surplus money to put into highways. And I want to be able to have a highway program that will benefit Clark County, that will be able to be matched with a $200 million from the federal government for our state every year, so that we can continue building more highways and improve our highways in this state. That will help us in terms of economic development. So those are some major initiatives that we have in the future. And I want you to know I haven't lost my conservative roots. I'm still a conservative, but I'm also a very practical governor. And whenever I was in Homeland Security after 9/11, I was struggling with this concept of a government that seemed to me to be doing a lot in security, and what was that doing to our freedoms as we go through the airports. And I went and I was shopping with my wife Susan. She was shopping. I was walking alongside her. And I went into a bookstore and I found this book by an author that has been out of date for over 100 years. His name is Henry Van Dyke. And he became my favorite author. And he made a speech trying to explain what America was all about. And he was speaking to a European audience. And he said, Americans are people of idealists, set about to accomplish a very practical task. He was referring to the creation of our country, where we are here for freedom. We're here for this new way of life, but government has to be practical. And that's what he was trying to convey, that Americans are idealists, but we're practical. And I think that's where we are in Arkansas. I want us to make the right decision for Arkansas now, be practical. We haven't lost our idealism. We're going to fight for freedom every day. We're going to fight for free enterprise. We're going to fight for the private sector. We're going to fight for the job growth that we want in this state. I'm honored to be your governor. I am proud of the work that you're doing here in Arkadelphia and in Clark County, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Thank you, and God bless you.